The UK housing market is well and truly cooked.
Unpopular opinion, you're going to hate me, but I'm going to tell you guys anyway. Move out of London.
You ever wonder why houses in the UK are so expensive and yet so ugly?
A London council is now looking to buy back council leasehold properties. And if this doesn't highlight market inefficiencies in the housing crisis in London, I don't know what does.
Right now, I'm in London and everyone here can't afford their rent or can't use the electric because they can't afford to turn it on.
Can we talk about how towns and cities outside London are charging London prices for rent?
I'm homeless in 2 days, and today I'm supposed to be moving to a house today.
The rent is not cheap, but the state of the house is cheap.
Where the people who built this country, who work, obey the law and pay every bill, get pushed to the bottom, while those who just arrived get handed the keys.
The UK housing crisis is turning home ownership into an impossible dream. Rents are skyrocketing, mortgages are out of reach, and millions are stuck in a system that doesn't want them to win. Families are crammed into tiny spaces, young adults can't move out, and homelessness is exploding. If you think this doesn't affect you, it already does.
Right now I'm in Dubai and I'm here to buy my 4th international investment property.
Right now, I'm in London and everyone here can't afford their rent or can't use the electric because they can't afford to turn it on. They're already been evicted or they've already been homeless for 5 months and can't find a new place to live.
Can we talk about how towns and cities outside London are charging London prices for rent? Milton Keynes and Luton, count your days. Didn't know how bad it was till I started looking for property to rent. I can't believe it, and it's not cheap. The rent is not cheap, but the state of the house is cheap. With this house, there was still works going on, but I feel like they could have cleaned it up a bit for viewing. So I wasn't too fast, but it's the fact that it's advertised for a 1-bed. It's more like a studio. It's literally kitchen, bedroom, no living space, and a bathroom. But this is advertised for 1-bed, and I can't believe this is 1K. This 1-bedroom self-contained is 1K. We're actually in the trenches.
So the UK government is now dishing out 5-year guaranteed rent contracts to private landlords. Not for ordinary Brits, not for young families, but for asylum seekers. Yes, while you're out here refreshing Rightmove like it's Tinder, hoping for a miracle under 1,200 quid, Serco is offering landlords guaranteed cash, no hassle, fully funded by you. The same taxpayers who can't even get a doctor's appointment without begging and waiting weeks on end. Thousands of homes are being pulled from the private rental market, just as an entire generation of British people can't afford to leave their parents' house. And what's the government doing for you? Absolutely. Let's be clear, this isn't compassion. It's a 2-tier system where the people who built this country, who work, obey the law and pay every bill, get pushed to the bottom, while those who just arrived get handed the keys. Loyalty means nothing. Being British gets you nothing. This isn't a housing plan. It's a betrayal. And we are not staying silent anymore, because if we don't speak up now, then who will?
BlackRock bought £1.4 billion worth of what we call single family homes in the UK in 2024. The challenge with this is that now the private rented sector accounts for over 20% of all housing available to the UK population. Every single year, more private equity pumps into the housing market, buying up what little housing we are producing. And that's really the issue. We have some of the worst housing starts and new construction projects this year as we did since the heart of COVID. So as we produce less and less homes, and as those homes that we do produce are bought up by private equity in the thousands and thousands and thousands, we're entering into a market where we'll have to rent. And if we can afford to buy, those houses that are on the open free market will be astronomical. So what do we do about this? Either we suck it up, we take it, or focus on acquiring assets, whatever assets you can, because they will rise with the tide.
A London council is now looking to buy back council leasehold properties. And if this doesn't highlight market inefficiencies in the housing crisis in London, I don't know what does. Now, these are the exact same properties that Thatcher sold under the Right to Buy scheme in the 70s. Now the council is buying them back at the inflated prices of today from the very same people that they sold them to. You just can't make this stuff up. What a complete waste of taxpayers' money. Now, this is no shade to anyone who's able to purchase a property under the right to buy scheme. Kudos, hats off to you. But it just seems super inefficient for a council to sell a property for one price and then buy it back years later at the grossly inflated market price. And the fact that councils are having to do this when they don't just go ahead and build properties, and this method is somewhat cheaper than building new houses, is just incredibly inefficient. And it just goes to show the scale of the housing crisis throughout the UK, but particularly in London. Seeing this today absolutely shocked me, and I think future generations are absolutely cooked, especially if you're living in London. More and more needs to be done from a government level to increase the levels of housing stock. But at the same time, there's a massive conflict of interest because a lot of MPs are private landlords themselves. So why would they increase the housing stock when they're making so much money out of the fact that there is a housing shortage in the UK and especially in London? Let me know what you think in the comments below, but I think this just highlights the scale of the issue.
I mean, it really feels like we're living in the end times. I'm just symbolic of probably hundreds of thousands of working class Brits that have just been pushed to the back of the queue by this society. It's really these greedy politicians and corporations are to blame. Some other groups in the world that I can't really talk about. I'm actually walking to the Housing Association right now to complain about the poor service I received. The washing machine was fixed, now the pipe's leaking again. They do not take you seriously unless you rock up there in person and get a bit agitated with them, get a bit aggy.
Hello.
This is the Housing Association, right?
Yes, but the office is closed.
It's always closed. I just wanted to speak to someone about my flat. I have constant repairs that aren't getting fixed.
Have you reported the repairs?
Yeah.
The office is actually closed. Open Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours.
Why are you here then? I don't understand. Why is it only open 2 days a week?
It's been that since... It's been 5 years now.
Fair enough. Alright, well, I guess I'll leave you alone now.
According to the Office for National Statistics, for you to get a home in a flat like that, you'd need to have 8.6 years of disposable income, or around £35,000 just to put down a deposit. Now, one of the reasons that's being blamed for the unaffordability of housing, which has halved since the 1990s, is the fact that you have just 3 major house building companies who make about 32% in terms of profit every single year. That's supernormal profits. And they've paid out £16 billion in dividends in the past 16 years. We're talking about Persimmon Housing, we're talking about Taylor Wimpey, we're talking about Barrett Housing as well. These are companies that dominate, 3 companies that dominate the housing sector that the Competition and Markets Authority has criticised for monopolistic practices. For example, sharing price information, from squeezing out smaller competitors, and also pushing for the kinds of laws that mean that other smaller companies can't build housing for many people. But what do you think? And if you'd like to learn more, then see the caption down below.
The UK housing market is well and truly cooked. If you haven't bought a house already in the UK and you're thinking about buying a house, if I were you, my best advice would be to pause, relax for a second. Don't get ahead of yourself, because it has been confirmed. We've been knowing this for a while now, but it's been confirmed. UK housing is the worst value for money of any advanced economy currently in the world. All you have to do to see the facts of this is go onto Zoopla, go onto Rightmove, look at any property. Like, obviously, don't get me wrong, there's some areas of the UK whereby house prices are somewhat respectable. But even outside of London, 2-bedroom flats are costing you upwards of £250,000, £300,000 at a go. What is wrong with your... I don't understand the UK. They make me at a loss for words, because this is not the life that we should be living. Now, when you're talking about value for money when it comes to buying a property, you're talking about how much space are you getting for the amount of money that you're paying. And clearly, we can see that England and Greater London is a shambles when it comes to the amount of space that you're given for the amount of money that you have to pay. It's crazy. Tokyo is famously overpopulated, and they're saying that there's so many young professionals there, so many families that are living there, that they're living in such cramped conditions. London is on a level footing. The only place that is, well, from this list anyway, that we can see that's worse is Paris. And yeah, there's not too much that can be said about them, man, there. These are the living conditions, or at least some of the living conditions in Tokyo that people are residing in, people are living in. London is on a par with this. So if you're there steadfastly saving your money and you're going to buy somewhere in the United Kingdom, I would hold off for a minute. I wouldn't buy anything just now. I would hold on for a minute and wait and see in which way that the market's going to change and housing's going to change after the general election, because something's got to give. Because I can put my last penny on the fact that if this place was for rent in London, they'd be charging you at least £1,000 a month.
If you've got a generation of people that are renting now, and then these people are going to need to be looked after in their old age. Well, that's going to fall on the state, isn't it? Because they don't have assets. Previously, you bought your house, you paid off your mortgage, you live in your house, you sell your house, and there's an asset that's going to pay for your care in old age. You don't have any assets. Who's going to pay for your care? Your family? Well, no, because they're too busy working 3 jobs just to pay for their own existence. And they're working later because the age of retirement's gone up. So suddenly you've got no care within the community. So it's going to have to fall on the state. And we're going to have enormous, enormous costs for care for the elderly in another couple of decades if we don't start looking at this housing crisis now.
Yo, England is officially done. England is finished, mate. This country is finished. It's just a horrible, expensive, miserable place nowadays. I was on Instagram before, yeah, and I seen that teachers are now putting digital clocks in schools because the kids can't even tell the time no more. Like, what? For one, it's a school, so teacher, and for two, it's like, in 20 years, these are going to be the people of our country, the adults of our country. Like, I'm telling you, give it 20 years, this country is going to be one of them Brit-off European countries like Poland or Ukraine or somewhere that no one wants to go, bro. Another thing, yo, life's getting so expensive, bro. It doesn't make no sense. Nowadays, a pack of 6 costs you like £15. You could go Thailand and get a hotel for the night for £15. It doesn't make no sense, bro. Quick Nando's, it's a quick, cheap little scran. Well, it used to be. Now you're spending 20-25 quid on a Nando's. Like, make it make sense, bro. It's just a miserable place. Not only the weather, but the culture. Like, we don't have anything here in England. Like, there's no culture behind it. No one's proud of where they come from. No one's like, oh yeah, come to my city, everyone just wants to get out of this shithole. Like, it is a horrible, horrible place, man. Like, it's only getting worse. So, if you can get out, I suggest you do get out. If you can't, plan on finding a way to get out. And if you are looking to get away, shout me, because in the next 3 weeks, I'm jumping on a one-way flight and I'm out of this bitch.
I'm homeless in 2 days, and today I was supposed to be moving to a house sitting, which fell through for very unexpected reasons, and it's really scary. And when I say homeless, I just want to clarify, I am working, I pay my bills, I never had a problem with, my tenancy. I have to move because my landlady is forced to sell her place so we can be for more money, so more Londoners could live in Bristol. And I haven't been able to find a place to live. And when people say, oh, just go and work, I'm working, I pay my bills, I do all the things I should be doing, and it's not enough. And if anyone is wondering why I'm posting this, I tend to forget lots of traumatic moments, and I want to remember. Because I think I will come through this. But right now it's really scary. I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 weeks' time. I've managed to find a place to stay with my friends until the end of the month, and I'm seeing a property on Wednesday. But it is fucking scary. It is scary. And no, I can't go home. I can't go back to my parents. I'm doing everything I can to look after myself. And it's still not enough.
You ever wonder why houses in the UK are so expensive and yet so ugly? You compare it to places nearby like Germany, France, Spain, you might think, well, the reason it's so much more expensive is because the population density is so much higher. You can also compare it to countries like the Netherlands and Belgium, where the population density is much higher, but they have adapted and managed to create a space for people to live without sacrificing greenery. Just so we're clear, when you look at a house in the Netherlands, there's a lot more space per person, per capita. But the difference is they've given 87% of their land to green space. Now, all the UK would need to do is reduce from 93% to 91% of green space, and people would be able to have a home. Homes would be 50% bigger and 2.5 times cheaper. But of course, people who own homes wouldn't want the housing market to crash, would they? They would rather their assets go up than have people be able to be home. And then you couple that with the fact that since World War II and the need to vastly reconstruct a lot of major cities, which led the government to impose a bunch of different regulations on building codes, and you price out the individual from being able to create their own home. Only 7% of homes are made by the individual in the UK. So what ends up happening is only developers can create. And they create blocks and blocks of houses that all look the same. Or, there's an ABC type housing. And that's it. There's no variation, there's no beauty, there's no detail or character, because everything is just a carbon copy of what's next to it. The rest of Western society just has a couple of building codes. Don't make it too high, don't do X, Y, Z. And that's enough. You shouldn't need to get the government to tell you, okay, yeah, you can build a basic house on your own property that you own. But people would rather blame immigration than just take a look at the government regulations ruining their own country.
Unpopular opinion, you're going to hate me, but I'm going to tell you guys anyway. Move out of London. Okay? The social housing it's in titters. And it's not just in London, it's in titters everywhere. But if you're living in London and you're used to London rentals, and then you go provide yourself a private property somewhere in Birmingham, Leeds, wherever it may be up there, you're going to be laughing. I know it's not what you want to hear because you want to stay close to family and all of that. I get it. But if it doesn't financially make sense for you to be in London, and there's no, you're just not seeing the end of the tunnel in order for you to be getting the social housing place that you want, need and require, honestly, look outside of London. It's not what you want to hear. I know, because everybody wants to stay close to family and friends, and I get that. No, trust me, I get that. But ultimately, you have to make smart decisions. You have to look at your surroundings. You have to look at your environment. You have to look at the financial climate. You have to look at the housing climate. You might have to look outside of London. Honestly. If not outside of London, then maybe look outside of the borough that you really want. Look outside of that. Because there may be a possibility or an option for you there that you don't have in, I don't know, Croydon or Romford. I'm just saying. Don't kill me. It's not what you want to hear. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But you got to do what you got to do to survive, okay?
Where are the plans to build 3 million new homes in addition to the existing new homes, and where? Well, I mean, amen, exactly. So the government's building around 180,000 homes a year at the moment in England and Wales. On current estimates, we need to build somewhere around 550,000 homes to keep up with demand. On top of that, we've now got growing competition from illegal migrants and asylum seekers who, as we've learned this morning, I've just put this story on X, are now being moved out of temporary accommodation into council houses and rented accommodation that is undercutting local British people, which is, again, outrageous. The housing crisis is going to accelerate and intensify over the next 5 to 10 years unless we, A, have a big house building program, and B, dramatically curtail and limit and lower the overall level of migration into the country. Those are the two things essentially that have to be done. Now, there's also a story which has been buried in the news, but I'm about to share it on social media this afternoon on X. From Kent, a county I know well. I was at the university for many years, where Kent councils say because of the demands that are now coming from the illegal migration crisis, they can't even provide basic services to local children and families, which again is just absolutely outrageous, because what you've got are lots of local councils that are near bankruptcy or are bankrupt, trying to provide core public services and then being asked to suddenly find and make available housing and public services for an illegal migration crisis that nobody in power wants to solve. I mean, it's all completely, utterly ridiculous. But that's an example of where housing is becoming a really big proxy, a really big symbol, a lightning rod of this bigger debate about what's happening to the country. So I absolutely agree.
The other issue in the UK is that we have very landlord-weighted rights over tenants. So in Germany, over time, if you rent a property, you build up certain rights, and over the longer you live in a property, the harder it is for a landlord to just turn up and get rid of you. In the UK, that has not been the case. I mean, the Labour government is talking about getting rid of Section 21, the no-fault eviction. But in the UK, again, through the reforms of Thatcher, you have a market that's very much geared to incentivising landlords, incentivising people to become landlords. So as far as tenants' rights are concerned, tenants have far fewer rights in the UK than, say, compared to Germany or France.
It's interesting you say about the landlord and how, everything's kind of in favour to the landlords in this country. So this is not going to make me very popular, but I was a landlord for a bit. I bought a property. I've talked about me buying a property in Middlesbrough before, but couldn't get onto the property ladder when I was in my early 20s, so decided to buy a house where I'm from. I then couldn't work in Middlesbrough doing what I wanted to do, moved to London to work, and I couldn't sell the Middlesbrough property because it was pretty much negative equity at that point, because I'd bought at the top of the market. It was literally the worst decision I ever made, buying that property. So I ended up renting it out, and I had endless problems and felt like, and I'm not saying poor me, I'm literally not saying that before anyone jumps down my neck. I don't think I ever had a point where it was like I felt empowered, like tenants who stopped paying rent for months and there was no way for me getting rid of them, and then I had to get someone evicted and they trashed the house and it cost me tens of thousands of pounds to get it repaired. And it wasn't me trying to be a rich landlord. It was a practical situation of I had to move to London for work and I couldn't sell that property. And I did end up selling it last year, and I've told everyone I sold it for the same price I bought it 20 years ago. I know you're saying that there are loads of landlords out there making loads of money. I know there are. And I know there's loads of bad landlords. But there's also just some people who, for practical reasons, have a property, and it is actually really hard being a landlord too. And there's a danger that those people will be pushed out from actually providing homes as well, because it's actually really stressful and not necessarily the money maker everyone tells you it's going to be. And I didn't have a second home, by the way. This wasn't me owning two properties. That was the only property I owned for at least 15 years. I only bought my first house I've lived in like 3 years ago. I was renting for a long time. So whenever I was renting, I felt like the landlord was the boss of me, and always that situation, never paying back deposits and always trying to put up the rent every year and everything else. And then as a landlord, I felt like I was losing out too.
And this is why a podcast is a great medium for this kind of storytelling and investigation, because I'm able to now say there is nothing wrong with being a landlord, and there is nothing wrong on the whole with landlords. Members of my family are landlords. You get good landlords and bad landlords. You get good tenants and bad tenants. No system, no legislation, no government will ever be able to eradicate bad people. What I would say is, first, you can't kind of get rid of that problem. You'll always get people who are trash properties. You'll always get landlords who try and pull a fast one. The problem that right now with the system is, if you're a good tenant, you've looked after the property, done everything right, you run a raise a family, and then the landlord comes along and says, here's 8 weeks, off you go. Two problems with that. One, it's just kind of inhumane if that landlord just wants to raise the rent. That's just not great, is it? The problem is, though, that landlord isn't responsible for the ultimate problem, which is that family would simply go and find somewhere else if they could afford it. The problem we've got now is the landlords, for whatever reason, their mortgage is going up, they want to sell the property, they want to move a family member in, all legitimate reasons. They are trying to evict tenants, and tenants are saying, I have absolutely nowhere to move to. What we've done in this country over the last 30, 40 years is we've become too reliant on private citizens to house low-income families.
Yeah.
And then landlords feel like they're being targeted by journalists and maybe investigations like we've done and say, well, we're not bad people here. We're just trying to make a bit of money on the side, or we're trying to, that's my income, or that's a property I've always owned and I've always looked after. The reality is this problem won't be solved by over-regulating and punishing private landlords. Ultimately, the problem will be solved by building houses, which we're just not doing.
The UK housing market isn't just broken, it's rigged against the very people who need it most. While politicians debate and developers chase profits, rents soar, wages stagnate, and homes slip further out of reach. Families are stuck in overcrowded rentals, young adults can't afford to move out, and homelessness is rising at a terrifying rate. Every day, more people fall into the trap. Priced out, locked into endless rent cycles, or forced to fight for scraps in a system designed to keep them struggling. And unless something changes, this crisis will swallow an entire generation. Is there any way out? Or has housing in the UK reached the point of no return? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.